us today. Got to say hi to them. It's nice to have you here today. Carrie, it's great to have you here with us today. And it's wonderful to welcome everyone, all of our regular folks, all of our community today. Let's look at our scripture reading for today. All right, from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 22, verses 31 through 30-something. And this is Jesus, and he's speaking actually to Simon Peter, like I was talking to the kids. And he's going to talk about one of these times Simon Peter kind of messes up. And Jesus says to Simon, 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 Satan has asked to sift all of you as wheat. But I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned back, help your brothers be strong. But Peter replied, Lord, I am ready to go with you to prison and to death. And Jesus answered, I tell you, Peter, before the rooster crows today, you will deny 3 times that you know me. And God add his blessing to the reading of this word. All right, well, there's something I've noticed on the internet. I get all my news from the internet now. And still read the headlines. You have to have headlines. I'm sorry, Angela. All those in the news business here. I get so much of it. And you still get the headlines, right? They have to put a headline, kind of catch your interest. And I've noticed there have been a lot of headlines lately about people bouncing back. Bouncing back. It's something I think term journalists like to use because it conveys so much in just a couple of words. Somebody has bounced back. And so I've read recently, actually I did a little Google search of all the times bounce back has been used in the last week. And there have been celebrities that are bouncing back from addiction. There are models that are bouncing back from gaining a few pounds. On the sports page, there are athletes bouncing back from injuries and teams bouncing back from bad seasons. And there are even countries that are bouncing back. I read this week that Indonesia has bounced back from a big tsunami 10 years ago, and Ireland is bouncing back from a little dip in its economy. So I was glad to read that. This idea, this expression of bouncing back, I think the journalists like it because it does convey a lot. And we understand it because we know what it is to face adversity and to come back from that. We have all bounced back from something in our lives, one thing or another, and maybe it's a little thing, maybe it's a small thing. So far, there have been great losses in our lives, and we've bounced back from it. And so, great expression because we all understand it. We can all relate to bouncing back. But there's one thing I don't like about it. It's expression. And that's it makes recovering from adversity, getting back, pulling yourself back up again, it makes it sound quick and easy. Because you get a rubber ball and you throw it against the wall, and immediately it bounces back to you. With no effort on your part, you've thrown it at the wall, comes right back, happens right away, doesn't take any effort, and we know that's not the way it is when we face adversity in our lives, when we face difficulty in our lives. It takes work to bounce back, right? It takes prayer to bounce back. It takes a community of people helping us to bounce back, and it certainly takes courage. It takes courage. Boy, these things that come in our lives, these adversities, they will pull us down. They'll twist us around. They'll hold us under. And we just are so terrible. And then we have to struggle our way back. Struggle our way back from all these difficult things that we can face in our lives, both big and small. I'll tell you, there's one thing it certainly takes to make our way back again, to recover when we face something difficult. It takes courage. We have to have it if we are going to bounce back. And that's really what courage is. And it's a way Jesus speaks of courage quite a bit, is it takes courage to bounce back, but that's also really what we can define courage as, the willingness to come back again, the willingness to try again. Courage is a wonderful virtue. And it is, and it's something we need. We have to have in our lives. We have to seek out because these bad times, difficult times, come upon us all. And sometimes, as I said, they're great big things. And boy, it's hard. Every step is hard getting back from these adversities that we face. And sometimes it's just the adversity and the difficulty of getting up one more day. Doing it all one more time. It's easy to get to that point in our lives where it requires courage just to get up. Just to get out of bed. Well, I love the way that Jesus kind of speaks about courage in this way. It doesn't mention it specifically, but just the idea of this is what courage is, and this is what is required to bounce back. And he talks to his disciples, and I love how his disciples are so good about talking about being courageous, talking about it. And Jesus will say, can you share this cup that I'm about to drink from? Meaning, can you be crucified too? Oh, yes, Lord, absolutely. Just like Peter says today, I'll follow you to prison and even to death. And Jesus knows better. He knows better. He hears those words from the disciples, and he knows that they are going to abandon him. He knows here Peter is going to deny him 3 times. This big, strong Peter, scared of nobody, talks all the time, whenever there's a question being asked by Jesus, it's Peter who's the one to answer it. He is a leader, and he is going to deny Christ 3 times. And Jesus is telling them this as they're gathered around the Lord's table, as they're at the Last Supper. And then probably Peter's feeling closer to Jesus than he's ever felt. And here he's being told he is going to fall. He is going to fail. But Jesus knew, even though his disciples were going to fall, they're going to fail, they're going to turn away, they're going to abandon him, he also knew and he believed they would. They would come back again. They were going to turn back. You see, being a follower of Christ, and you see this right from the beginning with the first disciples, doesn't mean you're perfect. Being a follower of Christ doesn't mean that you're going to get a touchdown every time you grab the ball. No, you are going to get knocked down. You are going to get tackled. You are going to get thrown down, and you are going to have to pick yourself up again. There are going to be plenty of times of failure, of loss, of guilt, all of that in your life. The question is, are we going to have the courage to fight our way back? The courage to come back again. That's certainly a part of Christian faith. This idea of the courage and requiring courage to be able to rebound from these failures, to rebound from these bad times, to rebound when things don't go our way, to rebound when all we can think about is the guilt of some bad, stupid decision that we have made. See, we Christians, we can have this courage. Actually, we have a good resource for it. Where does it come from? How do we get it? Well, we may be right now, we're in the middle innings, most of us, of the game. I'm using a lot of sports metaphors here today. We're in the middle innings now of the game. And we don't know here in this inning, it may be that our opponent is just wiping us out. Run after run after run. And it's easy for us to think, oh no, well, how is this game going to turn out? It's easy for us to forget that one of the promises of our faith is that we win. We win. That's the end of the story. The end of the game is that, yes, we're okay. And you know why? It's not because we're so good and we do have all the things we need in order to win the game. We win because we have chosen to be on God's team. And believe me, God's team wins. Absolutely. No question. God's team wins. Everything comes out the way God wishes it to be. It is all better. And we can forget that. We get into one of these difficult times in our lives. We get into one of these innings where it's just, so difficult, so hard, so challenging. And we can forget that fact when, in fact, it can be one of the great sources of our strength. We need to always remember, we are children of God. Where does our courage come from when we're facing a difficult time? Well, it comes from the fact that we are God's children. We know that we are God's children. And we know that there is nothing, there is no failure, there is no sin, there is no power in this universe great enough to separate us from the love of God. And that's where our courage comes from. When we are down, when we are out, when we are suffering, when we are guilty, knowing that that connection to God can never, ever be broken. I like the story, and I've told it before, you may remember it. It's the story of James Butler Bonham. He's one of the heroes of the Alamo. So you go down to Texas, go to the Alamo, you'll see his name listed there, James Butler Bonham. But his story is, he had an interesting story from the Alamo. He was actually a courier. And a few days before the battle, the commander at the Alamo said, you need to go to Goliad, 95 miles away, and see if you can get us some more troops, because there's no hope if we don't have some more troops here. And so he got on his horse and he traveled the 95 miles to Goliad, and he saw the commander there, and the commander said, there are no troops. There is no one I can send back to the Alamo. And James Butler Bonham knew right then that the Battle of the Alamo was lost. It could not be won. But an incredible act of courage, he got back on his horse, and he rode the 95 miles, and he fought his way through the lines to get back to the Alamo. To fight with his comrades a battle that he knew he could not win. Well, for us today, our journeys back from some loss, back from some guilt, those journeys are not a matter of historical record. The only people who will know them are the people who see the courage that we exhibit as we make and fight our way back again. And I'll tell you, that will have a profound effect on them, because it has for me. One thing the minister is privy to is profound acts of courage as people recover, as people bounce back, as people get back to the lives that God wants for them. So it may not be a matter of history, but it is a life-changing matter too, is courage. It's courage that we show. Every once in a while, actually just about every week, I get to church first, early in the morning on Sundays, and way before the sun rises. And I sit in my office and I do some work. Then as I see that the sun is coming up, I go over into the sanctuary. Because then I can see. The sun is beginning to come through the windows, and I sit there in the sanctuary and I think about all those people who are facing difficult times. Tough times here in the congregation, and I pray for them. And I can feel it in that moment of prayer. I feel like I am with them as once again they rise up on this new day, ready to take that next step, ready to fight their way back again and back through this struggle. Friends, you may be at some point right now, you have been struggling and you have been working and you are ready just to quit, to give up, to lie down and to roll over. Let me say this to you as strongly as I can. Courage means coming back. And Christian courage means coming back again with the assurance that Jesus Christ walks with us every step of the way. Let us bow in prayer. Loving God, we give thanks for the ongoing and eternal presence of your Son in our lives. Loving God, thank you for the strength that you offer us, for the courage that you offer us. Thank you for the hope of tomorrow, and the promise that even though today is difficult, that we know there is an abundance ahead for us. We know it. And loving God, we know that in the end, when it is all over, that we win because you win. And you have accepted us into your family. And loving God, for that, we give our eternal thanks. Loving God, we do ask that you bless all of those today who are facing difficult times, all of those listed on our prayer concerns, and all those whose troubles are a mystery to us. We don't know about. Loving God, bless them as well. Be with them. Grant them the courage they need to fight their way back again. Loving God, we do give thanks that now we are preparing our hearts and our minds to gather together as a community of faith at this table. Dear Lord, bless us as we come together, and bless these elements of bread and cup. And loving God, thank you for giving us this place that we can come back to each week. We can feel your presence and we can feel blessed. It is in Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.